this one's gonna get me in trouble. Okay, scan a night, roll the tape. Hello everyone, welcome back to Weeb Revolution, the channel wherein I, Eminem, bored with politics to the point of early retirement, talk about gay shit all the time. It's just that I ain't stopping, I'm not sorry, this is the most important thing happening in the world right now. While I could be making a video on a lot of different topics right now, nah, can't be bothered. Last time I was here, we dove into the subject of polyamory, and attempted to dissect the reasons for its representation in anime being so bad, and of polyamory just frankly not even being in anime at all. I am utterly horrified to report that since then there have been movements in anime. Movements I am not all too happy about, and on a long enough time frame I think this does more harm than good, but it's not like the big heads in the industry care about my input, despite the fact that I demonstrably have stellar track record when it comes to predicting the future, so let's talk about 100 girlfriends who really love you. Just at the outset, can I air one point of frustration out? Actually, there's gonna be a lot of that in this video. Me talking about my issues, you're just gonna have to deal with that. Okay, so first off, do you people have any idea how stupid it is that this is what I need to talk about? Like, maybe I have undiagnosed ADHD, maybe I'm neurodivergent and I don't know that, but I hate how my writing pattern works. I will spend months with an empty head, desperately trying to force myself to write a single sentence down, and then suddenly, bam! A flash of inspiration happens, I am immediately possessed by an angry demon, and I crank out a script in a couple of hours. That's what's happening right now. My fingers are practically moving on their own. And do you have any idea how frustrating it is that in the season that has My Life as a Villainess, after I missed the opportunity to talk about trans representation in Heavenly Delusions, and with a half-formed idea for a Shadow the Hedgehog video I wanted to do with my best friend Alex floating in my head for over 2 years now, that this is what I have to write about? And I can't control it. There's literally nothing I can do about it. The little angry anime girl in my brain decided, yep, Eminem, time to write, get to it. And so I guess I just gotta do it. I am sorry, Calliope, I know you have work and it sure ain't worth your limited free time to edit this abortion, but yeah, I got no excuse. Ironically enough, I got 99 problems and 100 girlfriends is one of them. Anyway. Part 1. One harem to rule them all. Alright, so what even am I talking about? Basically, Rikito Nakamura had read Girlfriend and said, just 2 girlfriends and some satellite bitches? Nah, rookie numbers! And with that, some truly horrifying doors have been opened. 100 Girlfriends follows Rentarou Aijou, our high school boy prota-kun who, due to a celestial bureaucratic faux pas, has been blessed with 100 soulmates. If he rejects any one of them, that love will become unrequited, and thus, because it's a celestial event, that girl will die. Like, yeah, that is just straight up said, matter-of-factly. So worst case scenario, Rentarou-kun could shoot to the top of the kill count leaderboards in an instant. It bears mentioning that it's explicitly 100 girlfriends, and soulmates at that, so clearly the celestial bureaucracy is not only incompetent, but hugely homophobic in the most benign, unquestionable way imaginable. More about that specific aspect later though, because, well, you'll see. And that's pretty much it. It's a slice-of-life comedy parody of harems, where the prota-kun will periodically acquire a new bitch and explicitly has to satisfy every single one of them because if he fails, they die. And while we're here, can I just say, why the hell is this not an isekai? Like, that's essentially what isekais have been boiled down to at this point, right? We can all agree that the Venn diagram between isekai and harem has just become a circle, yes? Just a thinly veiled excuse for the little shut-in man-child to live vicariously for an overpowered MC that women unrealistically swoon over. Like, we all know that, yeah? And this is supposed to be a parody. Why is it not parodying that? Like, what? Was there not enough time for that? Would that muddy the fucking themes of the plot or something? Jesus Christ! Ostensibly, this anime is supposed to be a parody of harem. Much like most of these comedy shows though, it falls into the trap of just becoming the thing it's attempting to parody, completely unironically, and thus stops being a parody. Like, the ultimate twist here is the sheer seriousness the subject matter is treated with, that the lovey-dovey moments between the MC and the girls are unironically wholesome. But, like, The irony is supposed to be the whole point. If you're making a parody of a harem, but the twist is that it's just a fun harem, you've just made a fun harem where you have to juggle literally 100 characters. Why did you do that, dipshit? Like, what hubris has claimed you to think that millions of accomplished writers, geniuses of their craft, tried and failed, but you will succeed? There is a goddamn reason you don't put these many characters into your romance story. You lack the imagination to even come up with 50 distinct personalities for these girlfriends, much less 100, to say nothing about actually spinning an interesting story about their lives and relationships. Rikito Nakamura, the total Chad that he is, laughed in the face of these odds. Like any good atheist would, he challenged God himself to a fight and is unwilling to admit defeat. Initially, I was fully convinced that this is just a short story, that they'd be introducing a new girlfriend at a breakneck pace, just doing a single girl gimmick per episode and immediately forgetting about her the next, to be merely checked off the list, objectified and discarded because goddammit, we ain't got time for this shit. But to my surprise, no, this is not the case. Season 1 of this, should there ever be more, only sees 5 girlfriends, out of, I remind you, 100. So Rikito Nakamura, the absolute madman that he is trying his best to actually make every single one of these girls into characters. I mean, he's not trying that hard, just hard enough to keep the goof going, really. It bears mentioning that even with just 5 girlfriends, they're already not really characters, just vague archetypes familiar to any weeb. It also bears mentioning that already 2 of the 5 girls are children, so... Well, okay. To be exceedingly fair, one of them seems to be just short, but the other one most certainly has both the stature and demeanor of a child. So yeah, good work Nakamura, you couldn't even count to 10 before throwing a child in there, which makes me believe that this ain't a bug, this is a feature. The most infuriating thing about all of this is the complete insincerity of it. The veneer of a joke constructed entirely to distract from the fact that this show just is what it purports to parody. Nakedly, it's attempting to eat its cake and fuck it. It is trying to simultaneously say, ha, ain't harems funny? Isn't it silly that all these girls would be falling for this wet noodle of a guy? Wouldn't he be completely overwhelmed and exhausted trying to juggle all these relationships? And also, but wouldn't that be kinda cool though, for real? It's a perfect exercise in accusing others of doing the exact thing you're doing very poorly. A performance in which the aesthetics of insincere irony serve as an ironclad shield against criticism because it's just a joke, right? Comedy, right? You've heard of it, right? It is body, mind and soul, a play at merely pretending to be retarded, the net effect of which is that, congratulations, you've just made yourself look dumb on purpose. So with that in mind, one would be forgiven for asking, why am I wasting my time on this? Here's the thing. Part 2. So preoccupied with whether he could, he didn't stop to think if he should. So, do you know what 100 Girlfriends has that other anime doesn't? A gay kiss in episode 2. Okay, I know that I'm probably the only one to whom that seems very relevant, so let me unpack that. The three-way gay kiss the characters share in episode 2 is not a joke. It really happens. I mean, yes, a joke is involved. But the joke is just that the 3 of them forming a heads triangle kissing on the school's rooftop looks silly. Specifically, it looks like a UFO summoning ritual. I'm not sure why that is the analogy they went with, but like, yeah, it kinda does look silly, not gonna lie. But the kiss itself is not silly, it is treated with straightforward sincerity that it deserves. Because the twist of the show is the irony-poisoned realization that having several girlfriends is actually based, though 100 Girlfriends succeed where pretty much every other show fails. By using irony as a shield, this travesty of art managed to loop right back into actually legitimately making a valid point. Rikito Nakamura, the crazy bastard that he is, dug too deep. His commitment to the bit is so great, he completely accidentally, I think, already managed to outdo the author of Girlfriend, Hiroyuki, a man who famously accrued a massive debt from his addiction to buying luxury watches, which he tried to crawl out of by publishing a book about his addiction to buying luxury watches, and no, this is not a joke, this is a real thing that really happened, what the fuck? The point is, Nakamura, in his unending hubris, flew so close to the sun that he plummeted to Earth with such force that he achieved a stable orbit and looped right back into hitting the sun, to use a rather butchered metaphor. And, I don't know, I guess call me crazy, But I think it should be talked about, right? Because think about it. Think back to all the Yuri shows you've seen, many of which are airing this season, and can you legitimately say the same? Like, do you know what Magical Revolution didn't do? What Witch from Mercury didn't do either? They didn't have a gay kiss by episode 2. And sure, they both got around to do that, finally, belabored as it were, after pussyfooting around the issue for their entire runtimes. And sure, you can say that in the end, these were vastly more sincere, more heartfelt, more powerful romance stories. But were they really? At the end of the day, because romance is so drawn out in the stories, we never really get to the part that's exciting. The part that matters. Showing the actual relationship of the characters happening on screen with all the pitfalls and issues it entails. Like, that is what I wanted Girlfriend to do, just be a show about these three doofuses trying to figure out how to live together, navigate through a world just completely hostile to their chosen lifestyle. And then Girlfriend introduced Milika, and just became about Milika. 100 Girlfriends is already committed to giving me more than what other shows simply refuse to do. Part 3. Sincerely insincere. It is important to note the crucial fundamental difference here. A joke is very easy to discard as a joke, because, after all, it's not serious. That's the whole point of a joke. But jokes aren't created equal. Comedy is a fine art, and while I'm not going to say 100 Girlfriends masterfully succeed at that fine art, the subject matter of the joke is important, I think, at least. Most romance shows, whether it's shoujo-ai or shonen-ai, or in fact romance shows in general, make a stinging joke out of same-sex attraction in itself. Women are routinely infantilized by the genre, treated as pure inexperienced maidens who only want to be with other girls because they're scared of my man's touch, and should be protected from it. Until their time comes, of course, and they're ruthlessly harvested. Should they fail to abandon their Yuri ways, they will wilt and die, becoming wholly undesirable. And yes, that is a very creepy way of describing it, but I am merely describing what I'm seeing. That was, in fact, the whole goddamn point of Yurikuma Arashi, to staunchly criticize this framing, to demonstrate that while the broader society of Japan certainly sees lesbian romance that way, and that has a knock-on effect of creating a self-fulfilling prophecy where women treated this way become the very thing they're being perceived as, predatory bears, true love between women is just kinda that, true love between women. There isn't anything more grandiose about it, it's just girls being with girls. Yaoi falls into a similar trap. Although where gay girls are treated as fragile flowers, gay men are treated with open hostility and intimidation that is really just hard to stomach. This even ties right back into the subject of one of our previous videos, specifically about femboys. It seems like gay men can only be conceived as failed women by the broader society. Possibly tragic characters, but doomed to failure, because they weren't born with a pussy. And as we know, the only reason to be trans is because you're secretly gay. And the only reason to be gay is because you secretly want to be a girl. And the only reason to be either is because you secretly want to grab children. Right? Ignore the fact that explicitly children are overwhelmingly a feature in anime shows for straights. A horrifying loop of mimetic excuses, nullifying large portions of unfamiliar perspective that has no place in the simple, cishet view of the world. But 100 Girlfriends doesn't make that joke. The comedy here is not at the expense of the funny gays, their romantic inclination not merely laughed out as a flight of juvenile fancy, not seen as a horrid abomination to be excised, it is treated as a thing that happens. And yes, 100 Girlfriends is absolutely naked about the fact that this is done for the titulation of the prota-kun to satisfy his desires, and by extension, the desires of the largely straight audience. But you know what? At least the story is honest about it. At least, when I point this out, nobody's gonna start raving about how, no bro, really, seriously, it's not like you think, they really like each other, it's not just done for the straight otaku. Nobody's gonna write essays about characters totally being into each other, just trust me bro, have you read the source material? I think a lot of these shows have ample opportunity to show, but don't. Nobody's gonna flash me screenshots of scenes from visual novels containing a single sentence that supposedly destroys my whole premise with logic and reason, as if it was a silver bullet, and as if I was even the werewolf that needs hunting here. 100 Girlfriends has a gay three-way kiss in episode 2 that looks silly to an onlooker, because it would be really hot for you, a straight boy between 15 and 25 watching this, if you had two girlfriends who would kiss each other for your enjoyment. Despite dishonest mockery being the story weapon of choice, a hammer meant to drive in the nails of criticism, 100 Girlfriends manages to be unflinchingly honest about this. And you know what? That deserves my respect. It is really, genuinely, amazingly exhausting to watch all these goddamn Yuri, Yaoi, poly harem shows that so convincingly pretend not to be that, only to effectively do the exact same thing, but the guys on Discord will just lap it up anyway. Not because it's better, but because it leaves enough to their wild imaginations to put the good parts in. Good parts that, I'm sorry to say, just aren't there. It's headcanon. You want good gay stories? Have some better goddamn standards! Notably though, fair is fair, this is an anime-specific problem. Manga and light novels don't really have it, as has been reiterated to me on numerous times. And that's great for you, but it is vexing. Part 4. You want slow burn? Fine, we've got that too. It is here that I will also throw you another curveball. Because if you really want your slow burn, will they one day romance that never actually gets past flustered looks and shaking hands, 100 Girlfriends still got you covered on that front. Episode 1 opens with prota-kun having a conversation with Friend A, an androgynous character with a distinct voice and character design that is ostensibly so irrelevant and serving solely the goal of exposition that they're not even given a name, it's just Friend A. They casually drop a bomb about how the prota Ijo is very popular with guys too, and when pestered about whether that means they're coming onto Ijo, they refuse to elaborate and disappear, ostensibly leaving the town and the plot alongside it, never to be seen again. But, like, we know that can't be it, right? This is clearly what we in the biz call a Chekhov's gun. Like, we can clearly agree on that, yeah? That character has too distinctive voice, and the prospect of at least some members of the girlfriend platoon being actually boyfriends is too good to pass up on, right? So it seems demonstrably obvious to me that the actual true ending here is that the real love of the MC will be revealed to be Friend A in the end, and all the other girlfriends will either die in simultaneously at different freak accidents, or even better, they will simply leave to form a 99-strong lesbian polycule, an unstable compound normally, but by now tempered by the roaring flames of the shuffle Protac had to do for years before that point. An ending where it is revealed that 100 Girlfriends was secretly incredibly based this entire time, and the joke is truly at the expense of all the sweaty otaku, as it really should have been from the start, given that this is, ostensibly, a parody of harem shows. Now, is this realistic? Hell no! It's entirely wishful thinking, born out of my own desires to see it happen. Because it would be an absolutely brilliant twist, a culmination of my hopes and dreams for the anime. Barring that, there is wiggle room here anyway, right? Since this is already trying to parody harem shows, what better way to do that than to subvert the very initial notion of 100 girlfriends? The show is practically priming itself for a joke at the expense of the audience, and given how the joke of the three characters kissing was not about the gay part of it, but just about how it looks when viewed from outside, I have all the reasons in the world I need to hold on to that clear and unambiguous headcanon, right? But you know what the best part is? I already have way more basis to predict that, more stable fundaments for my ridiculous dream than anybody ever had for actually expecting that the Witch of Mercury would see Soleta and Viorina actually genuinely commit to a relationship by the midpoint of the story, or that they would ever see the gay wedding happen on screen. My foundations are better here because I'm not merely going off of what would be cool to see in terms of a gay romance story. I'm not a mere fish hooked on a queer bait, holding it in my jaws zealously, for I was deprived of anything more substantial than bait for actual decades. But because I'm actually analyzing the story in its proper context and structure, dissecting what it is and what it's trying to do, in what ways it fits nearly into the canon of anime, and in what ways it's attempting to break the mold. When I say that I am earnestly believing that the secret twist to 100 Girlfriends is that it was good and gay all along, you can't call me out on that. I have better reasons to believe that than any of you ever had for telling me that UBW has a poly-romance between Shiro, Tosakarvin and Saber. And should my prediction fail, I have two ways out. I can pretend that I was always joking, pretending to be retarded, that it was a social experiment and I, the obvious clown, had always been the true genius here. Or, alternatively, I can hold fast to that belief forever, fabricate good things about how the show is secretly based and red-pilled that prove my point. And would you be able to tell the difference between what I'm doing and what people who, to this day, somehow imagine that Bridget and fairies are not trans are doing? I know I would, because I have a consistent, objective basis to distinguish mere wishful thinking from insight. The tool is textual analysis, and I will keep engaging in it, the nasty werewolf that I am. Growl, growl. Part 5. The Gay Shield. And you might be thinking that this is where it ends, but oh no. You'd think I'd have been content having watched this show and having some crazy theories serving as an expression of my powerlessness in affecting the medium I enjoy. Unfortunately, it does not end there. See, I'm an idiot, actually. Like, I sometimes pretend to be clever, right? Actually, more accurately, people tend to give me more credit than I deserve, which isn't that much credit, but still, I deserve none, so it's too much. Anyway, due to being suddenly inspired, I've done with this anime the same thing I've done previously, which is to say, I asked Reddit for help. I was very curious. I kind of just wanted to know if my hunch is vaguely correct. Like, I could sense from the vibe that I'm absolutely on the money with the show being custom made for horny straight 15-year-old boys and the gay elements were just an outgrowth of that, but I needed confirmation. And let me tell you, I got so much more than that. I asked a simple question. How many of the girlfriends are actually boyfriends? You'd think that that's a benign question. It would be easy to just ignore. But oh boy, was I wrong. You'd think I'd thrown a grenade into the room. The overwhelming majority of the responses carried an interesting sentiment. They were something to the effect of, the show is called 100 Girlfriends, why would you expect boyfriends? Which is understandable, but that answer carries with itself much more than is initially obvious. If it was that easy, you'd think that a simple no would suffice, right? That statement, phrased as a question, is not merely a dispassionate no. It is reaffirmation trapped in a veneer of sarcasm, as befits the show itself. To read that statement as what it is truly saying would be to say, this show is for me, I was promised 100 girlfriends, no boyfriends. This is no homo, this is for me, fuck you, go away. And you could maybe say that I'm overreacting, but it took a grand total of 30 minutes for a Redditor to tell me to stop putting my Western woke idea onto a Japanese manga, direct quote. So I really don't think I'm far off the mark here. This shit is for the straight boys, they want their chicken nuggets goddammit, and they'll get very angry if you suggest to them that maybe they should share. To ask for boyfriends in a show explicitly about 100 girlfriends is tantamount to getting out of line. You got your gay shit, eat up, be happy, let the men enjoy their gruel. But interestingly, this is not the end of the story, because if it was just that would be fine. Well, no, it wouldn't be fine. I will absolutely trans all the fanboy characters you hold dear, and I will make everything gay, you better believe that. By the time I'm done, there won't be chicken nuggets left on the planet for you to enjoy. But if it was just angry, hormonal 15-year-olds cooming over the girls, I could let it go by. I wouldn't even question it. Like, I've dealt with the fanbases of both Data Live and Redo of a Healer before. That would be beneath my notice. But no, it's worse than that. See, I was quickly told to take my commie woke nonsense and go home, but you know what happened before that? I was told, entirely unprompted, that nothing about the show could possibly be construed as homophobic. The part where it's explicitly 100 girlfriends and the very possibility of soulmates being of the same gender not even being entertained is not veiled homophobia, it's the conceit of the plot. And that makes that fine, right? Artists, after all, should be able to tell stories about anything they want to tell stories about, right? And if all the artists, or at least the overwhelming majority of them, decide to tell the exact same stories over and over and over again, that can't possibly be construed as market forces squeezing creativity out of the medium, can it? No, that would be unthinkable. It is the free marketplace of ideas, after all. If the men want their gruel, and if there are artists who want to satisfy that craving, it is only natural for that to become the unquestioned status quo. Why? Anything else, in fact, would be explicit manipulation, a conspiracy, even. I am stupid. Admittedly so, proudly so. But you aren't, hopefully. And you can see that this is not it, right? The part that truly annoyed me about this non-interaction is that I was not talking to mere incel losers online. I was talking to people who, at least ostensibly, told me that they were members of the LGBT community, that since they're enjoying the show, it is a fine show to enjoy. Any mention of the show being homophobic has to be me trolling, because why else would I be trying to spoil this completely innocuous show for the people whomst I share club activities with, right? The reasoning here goes something like this. I know I am based, and I have based politics. I am enjoying this thing, so it must be based too. If it wasn't, I wouldn't be enjoying it. And with that framing, well, anything can be excused, can't it? My secret four-dimensional chess play by the author is not unfounded because, well, I am based. And so that idea must be based too. So 100 Girlfriends is based. This rationale is, of course, total nonsense. In a way, the audience that has coalesced around the manga and the show is the perfect mirror of the show itself. That is to say, they're desperately trying to eat their cake and fuck it too. Critically incurious of the media they consume, they will reach for any argument, no matter how inconsistent, reductive, or flat out insane it may be, just to retain the enjoyment of the show. Hell, that attitude is proudly paraded on the subreddit. Defending the show and the manga is a virtue unto itself. One commenter stated criticizing 100 Girlfriends as homophobic just because it does not realize the existence of gay relationships is stupid. And I mean, where do I go from there? This is so obviously false, I don't have words for it. I'm left just screaming internally. It is, in other words, peak liberalism. It is, however, very important to note how flaunting the LGBT community and its manufactured approval has become a hallmark of quality. I am, of course, not the first person to mention this, and in fact, this video is not necessarily even about that. Video essays have been written about this phenomenon, it is very real, and it is horrible. I merely wanted to point out a single intersection of me personally encountering it while enriching myself with the beautiful storytelling crafted in the medium of anime. By watching 100 Girlfriends. Yeah, sure, I fucked up, but that's not really satisfactory, is it? It's an excuse. I sure as hell shouldn't have expected the slop like 100 Girlfriends to satisfy my refined palate, but shouldn't I? Part 6. Measured expectations are for the weak. I feel like I may have been rather vitriolic with you, my audience, this time, and I apologize. It feels like I've been shadowboxing entirely manufactured enemies, demons of my own psyche, and in truth, I tired myself doing it. I do, however, hope that there was a point to be arrived at with all this. If I were to try to bring it out of this rambling waste of time masquerading as a YouTube video, it would be this. The confluence of forces exemplified by 100 Girlfriends is an issue. It's not just that the anime perfectly encapsulates the faux irony, pick liberal grind set where positive things about the thing you're enjoying are injected post facto into a piece of media. It's not just the low-key, benign homophobia and transphobia peering through behind a veil of ignorance, spread around like oogie boogie's sack of a body to hide the vile maggots riding beneath. I suppose I should be happy about that, to be honest, at least a little bit. It is mighty reassuring to know that no community vying for relevance in 2023 can afford themselves outward, naked, obvious homophobia. It is, I have to say, very uplifting to see them smile through gritted teeth and attempt to reassure everyone, themselves included, that their enjoyment of the show and the manga is entirely unproblematic. We have cucked them to the point where they can't really even enjoy a straightforward power fantasy for horny 15-year-old boys without at least giving the lip service to the gay mafia. And you know what? That's a victory I'm taking. Cheers. But in that lies the problem, doesn't it? Perhaps I'm merely being a doomer, but I do see dark clouds on the horizon. Because really think about it, if it's so goddamn easy to use the LGBT community as a shield to deflect criticism, if us gays can be so easily folded into this horrid liberal dance, then to what extent can we really resist it? Hell, how much of it has already happened, which we're not aware of, which I am not aware of? You are not immune to propaganda, neither am I, nor anybody. I am not telling you to not enjoy the things you're enjoying. Capitalism is slowly draining us every day. We need our getaways, sure enough. but we have to keep analyzing things like this. The things you're watching that are coming out this season, they have already been deemed safe enough by the powers that be for you to watch. There are better gay things than 100 Girlfriends out there. The responses I've gotten on Reddit prove as much. But it's not really hard to be better than a story specifically made for horny 15-year-olds that want easy justifications to enjoy the cholesterol-filled, corn syrup-laden fast food they're gorging on. Is it? No. It's way too easy. We need something better than this. So when 100 Girlfriends does a gay kiss in episode 2 and with that alone manages to get Reddit clout? Yeah, I get worried. Because just how little are we willing to take? At what point do we say, this is enough, we don't need more? I should want that point to be, emphatically, never. But Reddit seems to disagree. The desire to lessen the grueling reality of capitalism eroding our sanity, that temporary reprieve from the encroaching darkness, seems more important to us than fighting for what we truly want, and we're willing to make concessions we should not be making. We are being entangled by the liberal grind set, we're falling into the trap we hate. We have not cucked them this hard by demanding scrubs, goddammit. The irony here is that I can outdo anybody at the voracious desire to eat my gay cake and fuck it too. That analogy has drifted away from me. I think it's time to finish this. Anywho, keep watching the good Yuri shit coming out this season, yeah? Don't think about this too hard. It's complex, and do think about it, but not to the point where you can't think about anything else, okay? Don't make my mistakes. I guess if you have free time, you can check out 100 Girlfriends too. It's not worth your time, but shit, some of the jokes do land sometimes, and that's good enough, right? This was Eminem, signing out.